charge that up. CB3. Yes. Hi, Anisha.
Hey, Linda, how are you?
I'm all right. Just
See if
let
anybody else join.
Olympia. I usually do the members first. I don't know your members, so I'm having to check the list. Hi, Olympia.
Hi, guys.
No. Okay, it's Alicia.
Alicia's gonna join.
I'll let Alicia in, yeah. Why not?
Hey everybody, how are you? I'm at the eye doctor still, and my eyes are dilated. So I'm here, and I'm listening. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Waiting for the committee to show up here.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much.
I'm not sure who all will be joining.
Do you need to be a co-host, Anisha?
Sure, you can make me one.
Okay. Give you a little authority here. Also, you know these folks, so if you see somebody that belongs to the committee, let them in.
Got
Looks
it.
There are
like
a lot of people waiting.
there's a few people that aren't committee members.
Oh, okay. So we may have a feisty meeting.
Well, you know, it's early. Hi, Thomas.
Good evening.
Okay, I'm going to just let everybody in now.
Okay.
You have a pretty good number of committee members.
Perfect. Is Tariq on yet? Okay.
We
Let
should
me-
want to do the rules, or does everybody know?
I can do them. I don't always come to this committee meetings.
I have them up if you want me to do it.
Yes, if you could do it, that would be great.
I just get some of this stuff out of the way so it doesn't interfere. Okay, share.
Thank you. We can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you see the document I have shared?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, so first of all, that you should know that the meeting is being recorded. And if you are not a committee member, please do us the courtesy of signing in by entering your information in the chat. That would be very helpful, so we have attendance. When you are not speaking, please stay muted. And if you have a desktop computer, you can unmute using the microphone button on your screen at the bottom left. If you have a phone, you have a mute icon at the bottom of your screen also. Okay, raising your hand. There's something a little new here. So you probably all know, normally on a desktop computer, you click participants and you go to the bottom of the list and you'll see raise hand. I just got a new client a couple of days ago, and lo and behold, that isn't there anymore. Instead, at the bottom of your screen, there's something that says reactions. So if you see reactions, it's a very convenient way to raise your hand. Also, to give a reaction, there's some cute reactions in there. If you have a phone, press *9 to raise your hand. Okay, and the rest of this, I think you know that the first part of discussion is among the community board members, and the rest of it is for the public, and that you have a two-minute time limit. Any questions? If you have any technical issues, please put something in the chat and I will try to help you.
Thank you so much, Linda, for giving us the overview of using.
Yeah, I tried to modify them for the latest. Because I was in a meeting where this thing with the reactions showed up for some people and they couldn't find raise hand because they were trained to look at the bottom of the participant list and it's not there anymore. So if you have reactions, that's the way to go. And if you don't have them, download your latest client because there's some good stuff there.
That's mute, that's on mute.
So if everybody who isn't speaking, if they could stay muted until you're called upon, but we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming to the February meeting of the Arts and Culture Subcommittee. I'm sorry, it's been a very long day and been a lot of meetings. This is sort of an unusual meeting for us because it's more of a planning meeting for the subcommittee rather than the we don't have any sort of like business agenda items. So I will go ahead and do roll call. The meeting minutes from the last Arts and Culture meeting were a joint meeting between Economic Development and Arts and Culture. So Economic Development technically already approved them. So we'll just go ahead and do a regular roll call for attendance. So Anisha Stephen here. Tati Jorio.
Yes.
Olympia.
Yes, but I had also a question. That's why I had my hand up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, let me finish the roll call. Go ahead.
Yeah, because we may need to approve the minutes anyhow because you guys approved your meeting, but we had a separate meeting after you. You were not there for our discussion. So I had the minutes that Caroline
but we
sent
have,
to us. Yes, so our minutes are different. You know what I mean? There is a discussion about the whole town hall thing.
so we'll do it at the next one. I didn't send it to you guys because it was all in the same file. So Economic Development technically also approved it, but we can do it again next month. But Olympia, you're here. Wendy Lee. It was on. Tariq.
Yes, here. So
Thomas.
yes.
Ricky. No. And Crystal. No. Okay. Oh, yes.
She's here.
It's Jonathan Weber.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can rename.
Crystal, you are muted. We cannot hear you. You are muted. We can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Well, I see you, Crystal, now, so I will mark you as here. Great.
Muted.
Now I am not muted,
Correct.
right? Okay,
Correct.
well, someone muted me, so I don't know how that happened, but it wasn't me.
So
Please mute yourself when you're not speaking, Crystal.
we can go ahead and move on to sort of the planning work, and I'll give sort of an overview, and then Tariq is gonna sort of help facilitate or lead some of the discussion. Basically, we're at a point with the Arts and Culture Subcommittee where we are able to sort of determine and shape its future. I think some of the questions that have come up about the subcommittee over time, and even in sort of talking with many of you now, is whether it should be a subcommittee or a full committee. What is sort of the mission of the committee? What are the types of things we should be discussing? And how should it sort of be structured? I think, you know, there are many committees on the community board. Some of them are very resolution heavy. Some of them are more informational. I think we sort of need to set a course for what this group is going to be working on for the next year or so. And I think Alicia's on, and I think there is a lot of appetite to just sort of hear what everybody thinks and see if we can come to some consensus. Not everything has to be decided today. But I think we are open, Alicia, I'll speak for you, is open to, figuring out the best way to make sure that arts and culture is appropriately represented in the community, the way that many of you all really care about. So with that, Tariq, I will hand it over to you. But some of the things that I had circulated yesterday were sort of the mission statement, and then also the arts and culture committees of other community boards. Many community boards don't have them, or they are part of other full committees. They're either sort of standalone themselves, or it's arts, culture, and something else. So that's a possibility for us too. But I wanted everyone to sort of get a sense of how other community board committees sort of frame the work that they do, and also the types of issues that they discuss as a committee. So Tariq, for you, and I'll be taking notes tonight.
Are we, Anisha, are we able to pull up the that mission statement from?
Linda, would it be possible for you to pull up the mission statement? It was in the email that I sent yesterday, the second one.
While Linda's doing that, I'll start just checking in with everyone. If you could use a reaction, how you doing today? React, how you doing? I'll put something, let's see what I'm doing. I'm feeling like this. Good, thumbs up. Olympia slower. Thomas faster. Oh, heart. Andrea heart. Tati thumbs up. Good. Cool. So what I'll do is while Linda is pulling that up, I'll read it so that you guys can hear it. And then I think that probably can start.
Are you sure that you sent it to me? Because I'm not seeing it.
That can probably start our, Olympia put it into the chat here. Thank you, Olympia. And thank you, Olympia, for emailing it. Because what's here right now is not on on the current CB3 website at the moment, right? What is on the website at the moment says the subcommittee is a hub for local artists and cultural institutions in CB3 and organizes an annual town hall to assess needs of the local arts community in CB3. So that is what's on the website on the CB3 website at the moment. But Olympia sent this version to Anisha, and she said this was the last.
I'm just pasting it in here for you guys, so I'll share it now.
Great, thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Olympia.
You can see it in the chat. It is there at the moment while Linda is putting that. Looking at this mission at the moment, like are there any thoughts or comments, concerns that come up just reading the mission statement at the moment?
Tariq, maybe you want to read it.
Yeah,
I'll
read it out. CB3 Arts and Cultural Affairs Subcommittee advocates for the preservation and advancement.
There you go.
Thank you, Linda. Preservation.
Want to edit, you'll be ready.
Thank you. CB3 Arts and Cultural Affairs Subcommittee advocates for the preservation and advancement of our district's unique legacy as an incubator of independent, experimental, and grassroots artists and arts and cultural organizations. We advocate for inclusive, diverse, and affordable arts and culture for all members of our community in our galleries, theaters, music venues, libraries, schools, parks, and community centers or gardens is where we come together as a community to learn, bond, grow, and enjoy. So hearing that, seeing it, what are some thoughts, questions? Do we like what's here? there are parts, I mean, I love, Olympia, could you possibly give some context as to when this was, put together, the conversation around it? When,
Yes, I'm happy to do. So this was actually, to be honest, rereading it after all this time, it looks even better because this was the work of a committee. So there were a lot of people back in the time. We had a big committee. Economakis was there, Libertad was there, Robin Chotel was there. Maybe Andrea was in some meetings too, Gorillo, who's here today. So I think that this mission statement definitely reflects, the, what do we say, the grasp that a lot of the members had of what it is, the uniqueness of our district, and what it is that we feel we want, and we also feel it needs to be preserved, so it needs some attention. So to be honest, I mean, I think that in today's meeting, instead of having like a general conversation about this mission statement, I would almost think the way to go about it is talk more structurally about how do we bring this into reality. You know what I mean? So it's this, if this were a mission statement, basically what we need to be discussing is the vision statement. How do we make this a reality? Because I think the aspirations are great. It could be written better if it was not written in committee, but I think for a community board, this is excellent.
no, when I'm looking at this, over the past couple of weeks, I was kind of going through just the different community boards, and that's, Anisha sent that out email yesterday with links to the arts and culture committees of other community boards, and looking at their mission statements. And so once I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, I like this. This is good. I love it. So yeah, I have no questions about this when I read it. Anisha, I see your hand.
I was going to say that I sort of completely agree. I think that this, I think, encapsulates a lot of what I have heard in individual conversations or being on the committee about what people care about in the community. I think if we're good with this, I think Olympia is right. Sort of the next step is to figure out how we are operationalizing getting to this, advocating for these things. And I will say, when I looked through all of the other community boards, there are some of the other boards do have more of a description. I don't know if it needs to actually be put into like a paragraph like this, but they state more of like how they achieve this advocacy that they're trying to do. And so I think that we should, take it to that next step and say, is it the partnerships? Is it a clearinghouse for information? Is it advocating for legislation and all of those things? I think it's not, that part is not, there's never really been a clear path about how we get to what we're trying to achieve.
Olympia, Anisha, I agree. Olympia, I agree. Everything that you said. I do. Going to the other committee members, are there any thoughts on this before we kind of shift gears into the conversation about how do we turn this into reality for our community?
If we could include, I don't know if it would be in this portion or as the further discussion, something along the lines of, I did hear the word partnerships, just kind of like even building. I mean, I know everyone here has an arts connection in the community, but either building or building upon the contacts that we already have. So that way, there would be a constant flow, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on now with revitalization of the arts and having public performances, that there may be stuff we're not aware of that would be beneficial if some of these persons had the platform to communicate with us. So somewhere along here, if we could include something about partnership, I think it would be very powerful. And the last thing, we could add an S where it says organization, cultural organizations in the middle of the paragraph.
right before we advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thomas, where do you see kind of partnerships coming in? I kind of see it coming in after this kind of cultural organizations kind of sentence.
You want to add a sentence?
Yeah, I think that's, Sandra, I see your chat. Exactly. I think outreach and communication is essential. Yes, agreed. Thomas, do you want to draft a sentence about kind of partnerships that we can kind of put in?
Sure. Yeah, I'm brainstorming right now. I'll
Great.
say something when it hits me.
You got it.
Okay, I'll put it in for you when you get ready.
Olympia, are there do you have any thoughts on kind of the work that, you know, I'm pretty new to the committee, you know, but do you have any thoughts of like what's been done in the past that you enjoyed or you liked the work that the committee did in the past that you would love to continue doing, that kind of speak to your thought of like turning this into reality, this mission statement?
I mean, I think that there are many avenues in which we can bring this into fruition, like make this mission a reality. Many, and we don't have to commit to one. Like it could be a partnership and we produce something together with local organizations, and we've done that. Ryan is here, and even though she's not currently a committee member, she was a committee member even before I joined. So I think I really hope she's gonna contribute her insights tonight. And I think that I mean, I don't think we need to spill out, like write everything, because I think it will take both. Sometimes we're going to do resolutions on legislation. Sometimes we're going to do events. Sometimes we're going to do outreach or presentations. I think that, I mean, that's what I meant when I said, like, in terms of vision, we can brainstorm, but I think it's not like we need in absentia to write all this and project this. I think almost I would go more concretely. I would say, okay, this year, these are the issues that are emerging, and we could tackle them by organizing this and that and that. And then everybody, as you just said, everybody here is connected to so many different things in the community. So I'm pretty sure very quickly we could have the next 8 minutes, the next 8 meetings said, oh, we want to hear about that and want to talk about that, you know, or something. Can I pass it to Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan, you know, I do have a question, you know, before Ryan, and maybe Ryan, you can answer this, you know, being a veteran committee member for arts and culture, but the town hall, I know that there was a purpose of having a town hall for this committee to kind of gather that information. What was that idea when it did come up in committee in the past?
I can also add, the question was for you, Ryan, but I can also say that the purpose of the town hall was just like, it was just the thing that the Arts and Culture Committee, subcommittee decided that they wanted to have an annual event. Not every single committee does it, but it was, I think, something that this committee sort of had taken on as sort of a signature event every year. So that's also open to changing or doing or whatever it might be. We were supposed to have one for earlier this year that is now still on the table, but we can, you know, relook at that. I think it makes sense to maybe think about all of the issues we want to tackle and then how we would actually address them. And I think for me, that comes in maybe a couple of buckets. One, I think, is like information sharing, and I'm just putting out these buckets as like, these are avenues that we could go down. And I think we've seen this on the committee, right? Like arts and culture organizations come and share information about what they're doing in order to make the committee aware. I think the question always was like, what do we do with that information? Is CB3 the place that should be happening? I think that's a question for me. Two, is that we figure out a structure where we have a closer connection, I think, to city agencies so that they come to us for actual input on things, because I think that's sort of been on and off. Things like open culture, they didn't really come to the community board to ask for input or feedback, but you know, I think that's something we probably would have liked to have had a voice in. The third being being in support or being in against of like initiatives, legislation, that kind of thing, like the resolutions that we sort of pass. So those are sort of for me at least, that's how I see it, but open to other suggestions or ideas from folks. And I think it's whether that makes sense, and then what sort of path we want to chart out. Tati, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I agree. I think that information sharing and just like sharing resources with the community is really crucial for the committee as we're, you know, expanding. I also think the problem with that in the past has been that we have a very, you know, small audience to our committee meetings. So just, I think outreach is another issue there too, and how to bring more folks to our committee meetings, invite more arts organizations to our meetings. But yeah, I agree. I think that information sharing, all of these things sound good to me. But yeah.
And Tati, just a reminder, you have a server or like a listserv, right? That was created.
Oh yeah, but I think it needs to be updated significantly. Yeah.
And then you also, just remind me if I'm wrong, but there was a survey that was sent out, but you said that I remember we had talked.
Yeah,
about so successful.
Yeah, there was a survey that was sent out to that list, and we didn't really get that many responses either. So yeah.
So I do think then a priority for the committee, you know, especially however we decide to move forward, will be kind of in what Sandra said was in the chat, is kind of outreach and communication and figure out how we're going to do that. Is going to definitely be a priority for us.
Yep.
I saw Ryan, I didn't know if you wanted to go. Yeah. And then Crystal, I'll come to you right after.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here after a long time not being here. I just wanted to say that, you know, I think that the values that, you know, you're based in are powerful and necessary values. It's great to hear that there's a lot of agreement on that. And I also agree that there's just questions about, you know, what can an arts subcommittee do, given just that everybody's doing this on top of their lives, and, you know, what's the capacity? And so having to be strategic about the few things you can choose to take on because of the nature of being a volunteer group. And so, you know, some of the questions for me are, well, you're unique, and, you know, that you are this attached to government. You've got a special relationship to government.
Mhm.
And you've even got a special relationship to the Economic Development Committee. You know, and so I would say that, like, to be strategic about what as a community board member, a community board committee can do, you want to stay close to that special relationship to government and how that works as an advocacy tool for all the people that want to participate in arts and culture in the neighborhood, you know, arts organizations, artists, but also just residents who want to have a robust kind of cultural life that they can engage in. And that seems to, so I guess I'm advocating for this idea of really choosing things that you feel confident you have the capacity, and also taking advantage of your special role. in moving them forward. And the last thing I'll say about that is that one of the tricky things of that is that the Department of Cultural Affairs is not a powerful agency at all. It's quite far down on the list of even having access within city government, and has very little capacity. So the agency that would be most natural for you to engage with is really difficult to engage with because of its limitations. However, economic development, which you're attached to here, has a much bigger range of potential avenues to city agencies, small business services, and other kinds of things. So I also would just encourage you to be creative about who the committee might engage with at a government level. So those are just some thoughts that I wanted to bring to the meeting. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ryan. Those were very helpful for us to think about. Any other? Oh, Crystal, I know you had some thoughts.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Okay. I think we need to advocate for the importance of the arts in the community. I think it needs it desperately. The community board itself needs that. And at this time, we should also be advocating for the opening of the galleries and the theaters on a par with the restaurants and the sports arenas, that we are as important as they are, if not more important, to the mental health of this city, as well as its economic health. That's what I think.
First, I think that, agreed, especially where we are now, but I think that also plays a part as to what Ryan also mentioned, like how do we advocate to government agencies, right? That the arts are important and should be at the heart of the conversations of what they're doing, because it is important. And as I think about it too, arts is, when you think about the community as a whole, Thomas is in education, I'm in education, arts and culture is not just galleries, performance, it's also arts organizations who are doing public school programming, that necessarily are closed down because they can't enter the school or the school doesn't have money to provide funding to the art program to come in. So our youth are now kind of lacking arts education at the moment, which is, not good, especially someone who grew up in this community and is an artist, and that saved my life, and we want that for other youth in the community. So I do see Olympia, I saw your hand first, and then we'll go to Sandra right after.
Can't talk
I
now.
think Sandra should go first since she hasn't spoken yet, and then I can go.
You got it, Sandra.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I unmuted?
No, we can hear you.
I can't hear you. Okay, anyway, I think what Ryan said was really profound. We need to reach out to government agencies, but I think more important, we need to pay attention to the sign of the times, in that the theaters are suffering a great deal financially, the artists, the performers, the theaters themselves. I think the community board at this time needs to more or less focus on getting support, doing resolutions that will support these, for lack of a better phrase, starving artists, right? And starving theaters. But also, as you just said, Tariq, in the future, right, we can go back to focusing on what the community needs as a whole. Art, culture is essential to who we are. Henry Street Settlement, I've been there 50 years doing pottery, drama, whatever, and it really aids and contributes a great deal to who a person becomes when they're exposed to such a thing. So as a committee, I applaud the efforts thus far, but I think that we need to do more outreach and engagement with organizations that have been in existence as long as they have. We have Mama Theater, we have Henry Street Settlement. We have a lot of resources that we need to strengthen our relationships with, and invite them to come to full board or to the committee level to let the community know and let the community know that we exist as well. That's it. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for that. Olympia. Olympia, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So, I mean, my comment is a good segue, I think, to Sandra's, because I actually wanted to offer some ideas. Because I think the way in which community boards in the arts and culture world have been most successful is when they act as conveners or as ambassadors. Because the reality is that we, over the years, have had successful outreach. It's not that a lot of these established organizations don't know about us. It's that at the end of the day, they will come when we convene them for something meaningful. So when we have a meaningful presentation or a meaningful discussion around, certain priorities. So I think that when we act as conveners for something meaningful, timely, they will show up. It was very successful, the work that the committee did around the Create NYC. And ambassadors, why? Because at the end of the day, as Ryan said, we do have this special relationship with government because we're also appointed by the government, etc. And very often, a lot of these organizations, because they operate in scarcity, the budgets are small, the agency that represents them is small. Basically, if one of them is leading, the others may not follow. It's sad. So I think we can have a very positive impact in the greater community by being this sort of bridge kind of space, and a convener space and an ambassador space. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, because I've been talking about that forever, and Thomas mentioned it and Tariq mentioned it, is the education part. So one of the difficulties that we had at a practical level with this subcommittee is that it was treated as a subcommittee. It was at the parks, then it was moved at economic development. That has a lot of issues also with attendance, with members, etc. So one of the ideas that I had and I wanted to propose formally is that this becomes a committee, and it adds in its agenda formally the education portion that is currently, along with senior citizens, human resources, and human rights. So if that committee has, let's say, a very broad agenda, and I think that also as a new parent that is very much involved with DOE in the district, and I know very well what is happening at the CEC level and how the community board could actually be an agent of support for them, it could be a very strategic and positive shift for this subcommittee to become a committee and add in its mission the education part.
Yep, agree. And I'll oh yeah, thanks, Linda. I was about to say, Linda, can you put question mark on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to capture your conversation as best I can. That is very rough.
You're doing great, thank you.
Okay.
I see 3 hands: Anisha, Tati, and Thomas. So in the order of what I see right now, I'll start with Anisha and then go to Tati.
Sure. I was gonna say that I like Olympia's idea of being a convener. It sort of goes to that idea that we do have a relationship with government, and I think people will come because we have that ability to bring specifically government partners together. And I also, having worked in the cultural world, fully realize that DCLA isn't the most powerful, but I think that there are arts is in so many different agencies, even if they are in small ways, like DOE, like even NYCHA, like, and all these. So I think the group of government stakeholders also can be expanded farther than what we, DOT, even farther than what we traditionally have done. And I know that, like, there's always been so many there's been a lot of ideas around that, but I think like that is it seems like there's some consensus about that. So we should maybe decide like that is a good thing. And then the idea of committee versus full committee, I think that is a much bigger discussion than probably what we will be able to decide tonight as this committee, because lots of other things are involved. But I think everybody is sort of on the same page that the subcommittee structure is challenging for all of the things that this committee wants to be able to achieve.
I think your comment of the connection to arts, to all of these different departments might support that proposal of becoming a larger committee, I think, but we have it in there. So Tati.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't know how much we want to go into the committee or subcommittee topic, but I agree it's a larger conversation. I do think it might serve the committee to be a full committee. In terms of the education piece that Olympia brought up, I will just say that as a member of the other committee, I think Thomas could probably speak to this too, we have kind of worked in the past year with having, you know, a relationship with CEC. We have now like CEC liaisons. We're planning a town hall. That's not to say that maybe a new committee just on education and arts would serve that better, but I just do want to say we are, you know, actively working on that and partnering with CEC. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I feel like there's some energy there right now. So I guess I'm hesitant with that, but yeah, whatever serves the community best.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. I hear what you're saying. No, I do. I think arts is. I think Olympia was. Olympia. I don't know if you were proposing that arts, like this committee, becomes arts and education. I think you were just saying that arts is also within education, and so it connects to becoming this.
No, I was going more formally in the sense that I truly believe that it would benefit the greater community, and I'm not expecting that we're going to resolve this today, but I mentioned this in the past, so I thought it was only fair that I mention it in front of all the committee members, that this is one of the ways in which I was thinking this could become a full committee and serve, I think, I mean, it's not a matter who serves better. I mean, we're all doing our best, and in that sense, we sometimes are good, we sometimes are not so good. But I think I could see how the placement with arts and culture of education, as opposed to human rights, human services, and seniors, may benefit the issue.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes
because there is more overlap, more frequent overlap, I think.
Got it. Yeah, I think there were two. I think in my like research of the other community boards, I think there are like 2 other community boards that have that structure. But I can't remember which ones, but I think there were like 2. Thomas.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing ideas put out there. I love the energy of this group. Definitely would like to move forward with removing sub from the committee. And another thing that I think, let's follow a model that works. The Department of Education, we've been advocating throughout the pandemic, open the schools safely. Even President Biden has been saying, we're going to open the schools, we're going to do it safely. I think it'd be very powerful to find some local government officials who are on arts committees and maybe come up with, like, we can have a proposal at our level, because it don't cost us anything to have a proposal, something along the lines for like a reopening plan, like I heard earlier, the same way they're doing for restaurants, but maybe we can add another component, because there's a lot of federal money that's been allocated. As you know, the middle schools will be opening on February 25th, and there's an entire new crew of people who are going to be doing the testing. So they're not recycling the current testing the testers that we have in District 75. All that to say, if we came out with a resolution saying that we support arts venues opening at 25% with testing, however we can configure it, I think that by default would draw a lot of attention. Like, wow, look what CB3 is doing for the community, and people by default will want to get in. And obviously we can't test, you can't have a testing crew for every single venue, but how about priority for those who show up to the arts committee? You know, it's like something that we could really do that won't cost us anything, but I think it'd be a very powerful tool just coming out the gate.
I agree.
Thank you, Thomas, for that. Definitely agree with that. Ryan, I see your hand, and then we'll go to Andrea.
Great. I just want to say, you know, again, like that I think that there's folks in the community who are doing a lot of work on these issues. I mean, I know FAB, we are working hard on this whole sustaining organizations and getting information out and helping them set up reopening plans and working towards their reopening. And now, you know, how outdoor performance is going to work and sharing that information out. So we're in pretty regular conversation with our membership and with organizations beyond who not official members, but we stay in communication with. So I just want to say that I feel, and there are other organizations who are also very grounded in the Lower East Side and have multiple relationships here. But it is part of the work that my organization is tasked to do. So, you know, we're 4 people working round the clock and trying to move that work forward. So I just want to say that, you know, if you wanted to do a convening and then you thought, oh, well, let's, you know, have a few partners to help amplify, get the word out, help organize things like that. I think there's a number of community groups, certainly we'd be open to it, but a number of community groups who would like to support that and help you in that work, not to overshadow it or overshadow the, you know, what CB3 is about, but help you with amplification, because like I said, when I was in the committee earlier, I mean, it was great that there was a communications list, but for someone to have the time to manage it or manage it regularly or send out regular notices, you know, and manage all those relationships, that can be a lot of time and effort. So sometimes partnerships, you know, make that kind of outreach and engagement easier to accomplish, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. So I just want to put, my organization is open to, you know, ever working with y'all on anything. And I think there are others in the community who would feel similarly.
Appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you for that. Andrea.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to speak in support also of this committee becoming a full committee. Mostly because I agree with all of the topics that Anisha had brought up and many of the items that other people had discussed, including kind of the key purposes or functions of the committee, I should say, of the committee. But I just wanted to also state that, again, I agree with almost everything that everyone has brought up, but I realize that the capacity a question is an issue, particularly because I can't expect, you know, everyone to be an expert on dealing with economic development issues, cultural affairs issues, DOT issues, parks, NYCHA. So, and, you know, so I just would want us to think a little bit about how we would want to, you know, structure convenings in a way that is accessible to folks. You know, like I said, arts issues have, you know, there's many different avenues to people's relationship to that. So yeah, I just wanted to pose that as something to ponder, I guess.
Olympia.
I had a completely different comment to make that would direct us to a different place, a good place, I think. But since Andrea, maybe Andrea, you wanted us to discuss what you're bringing up. Anissa, is that why you're raising your hand? Okay, so Anissa should go first, and then I will take you somewhere completely different, but I think you're gonna like it.
I love going different places. So let's do that. Anisha, go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say that that is like, Andrea, your concern is true and valid. And I think even it's like, as the Economic Development Committee chair, it's the thing we struggle with in economic development too. Like, not everybody knows everything about every single issue. And I think part of the work that the committee does, especially when we're not SLA or land use or landmarks that has like more of a structured process, is bringing in the people to teach us about what it is. That's why whenever we have a resolution, we always have an expert that comes in with a, you know, to give us the information. And I think that's part of this, like the work that this committee could do. Like, let's say it's this issue that Thomas brought up about reopening safely. You could spend a couple of meetings figuring out with all of the stakeholders that are involved in reopening, pulling them together to teach you at a committee level some ideas, and then put together a plan, and then maybe do a town hall, maybe put together a resolution yourself, etc. So it's that the point is that the meetings have to be working towards something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that then supports, you know, Anisha, your first comments of like information sharing, you know, we and also Olympia's comments of kind of convening or as an ambassador, you know, to the community. It's like, you know, we need to you know, especially to, you know, to Thomas' point on education, it's like we should, you know, this committee, you know, later on should invite like the superintendent from this district, you know, to hear about and just have a focused conversation about arts and culture in the public schools from the superintendent. Like, what are you hearing from principals? Like, what's hard? Like, you know, we have organizations that are necessarily serving our community that are not in our community, you know, arts and culture, like Rosie's Theater Kids. They're based in Times Square area, you know, dancing classrooms, you know, so, but they serve a lot of schools in our district, you know, so we have to figure out who we need to partner with for that, to make that happen, to get the information. Anisha, was that your hand again? Nope, okay. Does anyone else want to comment? Because Olympia is going to take us to another conversation. So does anyone want to comment on Andrea's point before we go to Olympia? And I just want to say we're doing great on this conversation, y'all. We're doing great. Woohoo. So cool. I don't see any hands. So Olympia, take us.
Oh, thank you. So another thing that I wanted us to consider is, you know, I understand what Andrea and Anisha just said. It is tough. It is hard to be in the community board. A lot of the issues we discuss are controversial, etc. But the reason for which I love being part of the community board is the fact that we are really all so different. Like, if we were not in the community board, most of us we would never met each other. And yet we are successful in meeting month after month and writing mission statements and resolutions, etc. So I believe that this is actually a huge strength, that the community board could do a better job sewing out and amplifying. It's a strength. And in that sense, one of the things that I feel, especially in CB3 represents District 1 and District 2 at the school level. And unfortunately, especially District 1 is one of the most segregated districts. And segregation is something we should be talking about at the community board, especially in the Black Lives Matter era. So I feel that we could also come up with, you know, timidly some conversations, some presentations, and start reflecting about, you know, how do we, as this uniquely positioned group of people, very different kind of people, start tackling even issues that are as difficult as, you know, why is our education segregated? You know, arts and culture is supposed to be the place where we all come together. Are we indeed? And so I think it's a challenge, but my vision for us in an ideal world would be taking on even this kind of, you know, issues to discuss and see if we can be a positive force in having a space, a safe space for these issues to be discussed.
Mhm. Yeah, as you were talking, I was writing this in the chat to all of you. I think it's important. I think it's extremely important to understand our why. Not only, but as board members of CB3, but also the committee. And I think when you're, I think we've, aside from the conversation that we're having right now, we've just gone through I mean, we're still in it, but we've gone through, whole, about to be a year of a pandemic, right? That many of us personally, outside of the work of CB3, some of us might have changed jobs, some of us may have lost jobs, some of us may change careers, change path, did this, did that, right? And all of that is work that we have to do necessarily. Some people did that because you start to realize, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing right now, right? And I want to be doing something else, or this is not serving me at the moment, right? And so I think it is extremely important for us to be kind of thinking as board members of CB3, what's our why? Why did we join, right? This, and what do we want to do? How do we want to help the community? But then also as members of the Arts and Cultural Committee, subcommittee, committee, whatever we decide moving forward later on. But as members of arts and culture, like, what is our why? Like, why did you want to be a part of this committee? What do you love about the arts? And what do you love about culture, right? And if we can kind of hear that, and I think I'm asking that as a question that hopefully by the end of tonight, we can hear kind of, what do you love about the arts and culture, right? In this community, that is going to then help define how we move forward, right? And what we do moving forward, right? Because it's better for us to understand, okay, just to hear Olympia's story, right? Just to hear that story and how you're different in your way of thinking helps inform the conversations, right, that we have, right? And where your expertise lies in this conversation and in this topic, right? It's only going to help the conversations move forward. Thomas, I do see your hand.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. As we were speaking, I reached out to a colleague of mine. She's the choir director at St. Mark's Church, and one thing that they're doing is they have an intergenerational group going on, and the people are telling their stories. So the community people expressing how they feel about their community, and I think it'd be amazing. It'd be some work, but we're all here because we're sticklers for pain. We like to do extra work for everybody. I think it'd be worth our while if we came up with some kind of a video, whether it's us or whether it's persons who actually did something in our community, prior victories that we had. Hey, we envisioned this, and look at this, what happened over here, and actually putting it on the website. I really think we could become the HBO Max of the community boards, because I like this stuff, but what gets people's attention is like, oh, a little jingle, like a 10-second spot, a 30-second spot sometimes will get you more than just, like, I mean, I like C-SPAN is okay if you're watching the impeachment hearings, but like a lot of our stuff, it's like, okay, I'm reading a PowerPoint, I'm watching a YouTube video of people speaking. But I think that, we're the arts committee. Like, let's come up with something funky. One last thing I want to say is maybe about 2 meetings ago, possibly 3, when we were entertaining having some kind of an event for the artists in the community to express themselves, there was a gentleman, I believe he has a theater on 4th Street, and he offered his facilities. He says, come on in, I'll tape you guys. So, we already have the infrastructure to do it. And I'm sure everybody here, especially Olympia needs to be the first one on the video. Make a cool video, put some music on it, post it. And I think it'll just show, it'll show who we are as a committee. And obviously we need a why too.
Yeah, but I trust Thomas. If you didn't see Thomas's rap video, I think it'd be cool, arts and culture, to create some rap video about our why and what we're going to be doing moving forward. I think it's cool, right?
Let's go for it.
Oh, I'm down, Thomas. I'm down. I can, simple choreo, touch a shoulder. Yeah, we can do it. We can make it work. A TikTok. Youth will love us. Okay. Yes, and I think Linda did put that in. Become the HBO Max of the, yes, Linda.
Well, it's a good idea.
Yeah. No, I think that's, I don't know if anyone else, like, kind of to this point, even just before, like, Thomas, I don't know if you want to kind of touch on this a little bit. Like, what is your why? Like, why arts and culture, and what do you love about arts?
I think it gives a voice to people. I think there's an instant connection. I think it eliminates judgment sometimes. Like, people can touch you in a certain way. It's a communication that it just transcends what we're used to every day. It doesn't have to be about work protocols or anything else. It's just something very innate about it. Even like if you just take a neighborhood walk and you can hear even how the birds greet each other. Like there's something just so musical about everything if we take the time to listen. And that motivates me greatly. I mean, I'm an educator for 18 years, but it's been my art that has made this experience even more prosperous. Like I've got the best of both worlds. Like I get to do amazing art with students and I have health benefits. It's like it's an amazing situation that I'm in right now. And I'd like to share that with other people, and then also use this as a vehicle. I'm very into innovative ideas. One thing that I've been pitching for a long time, but I didn't, I'm only been on the community board about a year and change. I'm still learning about city government, but just even having some kind of ways for artists to come into schools and be paid on their payrolls, like as substitutes. There's a lot of innovative things you can do. Why should you be a starving artist without benefits? Like working out certain things as we revitalize the community. What are practical things that we can implement? And I like what Anisha said about bringing in the experts and having them say, hey, we've been trying to do this for years, and then finding that niche and then doing something that, like my last thing I'd like to say is, I want to do something sustainable so that when I'm off the community board and I'm rapping in a nursing home somewhere, that something that we did in 2021, it still stays there. It's not just this static thing that, okay, we met, we made a resolution, and I'll see you at the holiday party next year. But wow, we did something that was sustainable and that other people could keep building on. I think that'd be amazing.
I think I agree. I think I think we all have that goal, right? Like before, you want to do something that is impactful, that it means something, right? Once you move on in life in general, right? You want to make sure that your presence mattered. Ryan, to Thomas's point about artists, there was a community board. Anisha, maybe you might know. I can't remember if it was 10 or 12 community board, but they did have I know FAB does this, but it's 45. It's about 45 organizations, so it's a little bit easier to manage than a whole community district. But FAB does have a page where it's like all of the organizations, a link to their website or information, that's in the kind of network of FAB. But I know Community Board 10 or 12 also had that kind of all of their arts and culture organizations that were in that community on their website. And also then local artists, right?
Probably 10.
Yeah.
10 is connected to the Harlem Arts Alliance.
Yeah. So, but they also had that as kind of, going back to kind of ambassador conversation that could be an idea in some way, which could support our local artists in the community who necessarily don't have a platform or connection, and community board could serve, and this committee can serve as that kind of connection to where people can reach out if they're collaborating on work, and use the website as a resource to connect with each other. Might be an opportunity.
Tariq, can I just add to that? So yes, those 45 arts organizations, which is actually a lot we have a density of cultural organizations in the Lower East Side, but we've been doing a guide each year of everybody that we can find. And so we have a whole book with photos and it's a PDF also. It's available with links to a total of 80 organizations we've been able to find in the Lower East Side that has contacts, descriptions, quotes, and also we did interviews with leadership all this past October, and we have interviews of about 50 local leaders about their organizations, about what they do. So videos up on the website. So again, those are kinds of resources that we're happy to make available. I just don't want any of us to duplicate what already exists, you know?
Totally. No, I think even if we're just, I think, and Fab's in the dish, so if it's even like highlighting Fab's link, you know, to those specific, the PDF and those videos. I know Daryl was a part of a lot of that work, so I do know that. Anisha, I see your hand.
So I was gonna sort of bring it back to what Olympia said, and then also some of our very earlier conversation in the sense that, like, what is the, like, what can the community board do? And I think that we, as we are putting together this agenda or thinking about what is possible, want to make sure that, like, you know, we are not an arts organization ourselves also. So, like, making sure that, you know, our purpose is really about, you know, regulatory changes, legislative changes, like the things that, like, the community board does or is able to have influence on, et cetera. But I do think this idea of, you know, having these sort of bigger picture systemic conversations like the one that Olympia raised and how it affects our district is also something that's sort of new and interesting. That, you know, I come from the cultural workers perspective. I'm big on workers' rights and, you know, employment and all of those things. So the intersection between arts and economic development is very, very clear to me. And I think, you know, as Sandra said, the starving artists in our communities, like, people shouldn't be starving. No one should be starving, but, like, artists have already had such a tenuous employment structure funding system that is something, like, even if it's not, like, we're not going to solve it as a community board, but certainly thinking about the systems that we are able to influence and talking about that as, like, a discrete topic, in addition to, you know, how we reopen the cultural spaces. Like, we want to make sure that things are equitable and there are some changes and people are paid for things, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of different ways to take it, but I think having some, like, idea that grounding in that it's the sort of, like, what is possible for the community board to have influence or elevate is important.
Yep. Thank you for that. I do think that it's all, you know, I think, is there any other?
I have my hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Crystal. Sorry, I was looking at the document.
I think it would be wonderful if we could develop some kind of a calendar. And of course, the problem with a lot of these things is we don't have anybody to do the grunt work. We're stuck with doing it, you know? We don't have a secretary, we don't have. So maybe we could each, let's say, take a month. And the way you get on the calendar is you have to contact us and tell us, you know, send us information as to what you're doing, which would take a load off of us having to reach out. And people would, I mean, organizations, they would jump to get on a calendar. And if we each took a month, it would take the load off, because I don't know any other way we could do it.
Yep.
But I think that organizations in the community would just love that.
Got it.
It's a form of promotion. It's a form of showing how important they are. And, you know, it's advertising. And I just think we would get a lot of interest in this committee that way.
I agree, Crystal. I am going to go to Anisha because I do think that there's probably some system structure to that with the district office around
That's
that. About who
basically what I was going to say. I think that part of this sort of like restructuring, I mean, a lot of that is what a chair of a committee does, right? Like that's literally what the chair of the committee does, is sort of helping formulate the agenda, connecting with the office to like make sure that the appropriate people are invited, et cetera. So I would think about that, and whoever, you know, wants to be the next chair of this committee, because it's not me and I would never want other things to do. So, you know, I think making sure that those expectations, and again, like part of this work is having that agenda so that the chair knows what direction they're supposed to be moving the committee in, to invite and have people on deck to come and speak, agencies, people in the community, et cetera.
And just a question about Crystal's point about a calendar. If that idea were to kind of come to fruition, that calendar would live on the CB3 website, correct?
Yeah.
And then we would work with the district office around that, of like updating that calendar, Anisha?
I mean, yes, but I think we would just have to figure out, we don't want to make a lot of work for the, I mean, like we are one committee amongst a lot of them, but we do, you know, we post things in advance. I think there's a way to sort of give people notice and have people know what's coming up, but I don't know if like a specific calendar specifically for this committee is something that it's just a conversation. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, I know. I think too, and I don't know, our social media could also be a platform for that work, you know. And I've looked at other community boards, you know, they don't have like a separate committee social media, but they do have like their community board social media. So if we wanted to, I think Crystal, like add things that were happening in the community that CB3 as a whole is, you know, advocating for, like, you know, go to this event, do this. I think we can definitely use that as like our kind of for each month. And Katya, I see, is a thumbs up, which we can also play with social media. I don't know who's running social media on CB3, but we can talk that later on.
Katya is.
Boom. So we can definitely play with it. And she's creative, talented in doing that. So I've worked with her on flyers, so we got it. Olympia, I see your hand.
Great. So I wanted to say, guys, we actually had discussed this over the past years, actually since Ryan was still in the committee. And we had even had at a certain point a presentation about some softwares from EVCC, East Village Community Coalition. And I actually believe that this speaks exactly to what Anissa was saying about what makes sense for us to take on and what role we should have. So I believe this doesn't make sense for us as a community board to take on, because we couldn't do it, in the sense that we wouldn't have the time to you know, be open to all, like be representative of all the community arts organizations and doing outreach, and who comes to us, who's not coming. And we are, you know, we represent government, so we need to be as equal opportunities as we can and as equitable. But I think what we could do, and we did it in the past, is we had added it as a district needs. And what we could do is basically do a resolution and maybe ask our local district council member to create a grant that then different local cultural organizations can do. But this needs money in order for it to be able to be a live website and that people trust and visit. Because if we do a website, judging from our current CB3 website, I'm not visiting it because I can never find anything. And I mean, I love us. I know we're doing everything with our best thing, but it's not our expertise. So I think the best role for community board would be to say, hey, Carlina Rivera and Margaret Chin, why don't you create a nice pot of money for the arts organization in our district to create a calendar, and you make it beautiful, and you help district 1 and 2, from the schools or whatever, CB3 have this visibility. I also want to paste in the chat, this is the Architecture Diary of New York, and this was actually a huge work that I know, and they got a grant, and basically they succeeded in getting all the different architectural organizations of the city to agree to give this information and had money for somebody to create and maintain the infrastructure. So that's why I think CB3, we are here today, not here today, tomorrow, or, the budgets are here like that. But I think if we advocate for a grant and it creates an infrastructure that there is someone who's professionally doing it, that's the best way for us to get this, because as Crystal said, we did hear again and again that this is something people feel we need in this district, and that's why we had it in our district needs. But I think we should do something stronger, like a real resolution and some sort of invitation to Carlina and some others and say, hey, will you fund that? And and
Yeah.
create some excitement and really a grant for someone to do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with your point as well, Olympia. Linda, is it possible to add, and where you are, just kind of just put like or social media, or just social media just to a point, so we have that. Cool. And then I do want to say, I think this was Alicia is in the chat. She said the office is working on making it more user friendly.
Yeah.
So,
And the district has social media, and probably if you wanted to put something on it, you have to get permission from somebody. But I'll bet you they would welcome, additions that are relevant. Like if you're announcing some arts thing or something your committee is doing, I leave it to Alicia to be more explicit about the policy.
Alicia, not sure if you want to speak on that.
I can speak to it too if Alicia's not available.
Okay.
You can email, I think, Susan and Alicia, and then they'll send it to me, and then I'll confirm and put it on Twitter, and then Joe will put it on Facebook. So yeah, I think we could easily do that.
And I do know, to the point of outreach and communication, if that's a priority and goal that I think everyone has kind of touched on here, I think it's important. Social media is a tool. Every organization is having that conversation about outreach and communication. I think we have to be a little bit strategic about who in our communities on Facebook, who is on Twitter, right? What's our audience, right? If you're looking at parents, some parents may not, some parents may be on Instagram, things like that. So we have to kind of be a little bit more strategic about what platforms we're using to help our outreach of information, So there are some people are not on Facebook anymore, so that's something to think about. But Anisha?
One thing I wanted to add about outreach and communication is I think there is both the disseminating information about interesting things that are happening and spreading the word. And then also, I think to this bigger point about the issues we are going to be writing resolutions about or actively trying to work on, I think outreach and communication is also just like understanding from people what are the things that are affecting the cultural community and making sure those are the topics that we are actually addressing in the committee. So if it's something like the opening, if it's something like open culture, if it's something like what I care about, portable benefits for freelancers, which like is many different things, but that like if we have issues that we need to bring attention to, that is what we're like communicating and talking, like meaningfully communicating and talking to our constituents about. And it's not necessarily just like this show is happening because I'm sure that like that is also part of what Ryan does at FAB, right? There are a lot of organizations that also share a lot of information about what is happening in the community.
Yep. Yeah, no, these are cool. Is there any other comments, to add to this list that we have here? Yeah, Crystal?
I think a calendar on the CB3 website would be fabulous.
We have it in the in our list here. So
I mean an arts calendar as a separate thing on the CB3 website. I think would be wonderful. Anyway,
Yeah, no, I think we have it here, and I think it's something we can definitely talk about and explore as we move forward. And think about the logistics behind it and how we do it. But we do have the idea written out.
Look how many ideas you folks generated in this hour. Pretty
No,
amazing.
we're a good group. Cool. Is there any other last comments or anything?
Well, we should figure out what we want to do next with this list. I think maybe if we put a lot of ideas down, maybe we could spend the last like 10 to 15 minutes going through the things that we've sort of decided are our top, or are there things now that we've had this full discussion that we want to reframe or no longer think about? I think what will happen next is that I think we'll have to do some internal thinking about the structure of the committee and what makes sense. And then we'll come back and continue to refine the goals. And I think the next meeting will be fully planning out based on whatever we've decided, sort of like maybe the year, right? Like these are sort of the topics that we're interested in addressing. These are the potential people we want to invite to come and speak, et cetera, and have a more robust agenda, if that makes sense.
And in structure, when you talk about structure of committee, that's like chair, right? And which is something which we know already. It's board chair kind of deals with committee chair, and then I think it is up to the committee chairs to decide on kind of the structure of like vice chair or secretary or stuff like that. So
that's usually how it goes.
Cool. So that's something that necessary we can kind of discuss. Olympia, was that a structure like that you
Yes.
were thinking about?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Anissa's point and say that I think the best way forward, Anissa, is I think we have a great roadmap with these ideas, but of course, these ideas are going to go differently depending on whether we stay a subcommittee or we become a committee, whether we add in our mission others or not. Who is the chair?
Right.
And then the other thing is also, in terms of timely issues, we all felt very strongly that we wanted to try to do a town hall around the pandemic impact locally. And I think whoever is the next chair should be given, I think maybe that will end up being a bit of a priority. And so that's why I think we did a good job putting all this down, but I think once Alicia and the executive decides where they want to go with the structural stuff, then I think we should prioritize things based on that.
Okay, so we'll leave this. Linda, please save this list.
Yes.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, I mean, clearly you have to pick your top 3 or top 5 things you're going to address in the beginning, after you resolve the structural issues, which is job 1.
Right. Okay. So we'll go with that first, and we'll see what exec and Alicia, et cetera, all the people who make decisions have to say. But I guess that will be the plan for the next committee meeting. It's whittling this down, focusing a little bit more. I hear you on the town hall. It feels like it's needed. So that will be sort of on the next agenda.
Yep. And to the point of like the annual, I think, aside from the pandemic aspect, of a town hall, but I think, if it is still a goal of doing kind of an annual town hall, I think it would benefit the committee to do like an annual town hall, probably towards the end of the year, opposed to the start of the year, right? Because I think it helps inform kind of us as a community board and as a committee, kind of what the organizations have done, and also what they're looking forward to do, so that when we come into the new year, we can then set our goals as a committee of what we're going to be supporting and not supporting, in the future.
Derek,
Yeah.
One of the reasons we did that in that time actually has to do with CB3 functions. We always use the town hall also to inform our district needs. So that's why we tended to have the town hall and see if there are new things that emerge from the community, because usually the town hall is the moment that we have more contacts with the community.
Got
And
it.
so
What's the calendar of like what that we start working on district needs? Do you know, Anisha?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Linda, I don't know if you remember, or Ryan. Anything.
Linda, can we just put like district needs question mark, district needs
Sure.
question mark?
District, I'm sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can.
Okay, district needs normally happen somewhere around, we start talking about around like June, maybe May, June.
Okay, yeah, I think May.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Okay,
right.
cool. Olympia, thanks for clarifying that point around the town hall and count that timing. Cool. Great.
Cool. So we can wrap up the discussion unless there are any last questions, and then we can do our final roll call. I don't think there was anything else on the agenda.
No, that was it. Olympia, your hand is still, I don't know if you still had some. Oh, no.
sorry, I forgot to lower it. Let me lower it.
Fine, just wanted to make sure that you said what you needed.
When they moved the raise hand to the reactions and not in the chat, like it's hard to go back, remember to go back. I don't like that, Zoom.
So I think our next steps is, which is next steps for, I believe, Alicia and exec as a whole, is just kind of structure of the committee conversation. It seemed as if right now, just in this conversation, there was support of taking sub out as Thomas's movement.
I'm sorry, I need to interject for 1 second to read. One thing that I don't think that you guys touched bases on today was the fact that it has come up on several times that the subcommittees, the 2 subcommittees, cannot meet in the same month. So we have to find a way to not make that happen until the conversation at exec becomes arts and culture full committee or still part committee or whatever the outcome is going to be. But until that happens, the subcommittees, the 2 of them cannot meet on the same month. Okay, just want to put that out there.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll coordinate that, but I'll coordinate that with the district office and make sure that we know when we can have another meeting. I would prefer, if possible, not to have to wait a whole month before we have, like, skip a month before we have one, but thank you for flagging it, Alicia, and I'll work with Susan to make sure it's calendared correctly.
Great. So once, I think that's first on kind of next steps, and then second is once we have that come back to that meeting, as Olympia stated, then coming back to this list to then kind of make priorities for us.
Now I had raised the hand now, Derek.
Get it, go.
So what I was going to say for Alicia's point is, I mean, if Alicia, the executive, and you decide to make this a full committee, then it doesn't need to wait, right? So it can be calendar as a normal committee meeting next month already. If this remains a subcommittee of economic development, I don't understand what Alicia means when she says the 2 subcommittees. Does she mean the Economic Development Committee and the subcommittee, or some other subcommittee?
NYCHA and arts.
Okay.
That they would alternate months.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was not clear. Why NYCHA has an impact on arts and culture?
It's been sort of like a logistics question, because there are people who are on a full committee. Tariq, for example, is on a full committee, NYCHA and arts. So it's like being able to calendar all of those meetings and all sorts of, like, logistically, it's been difficult. So there had been a proposal to have the committees meet every other month and alternate.
Yeah, I mean, I think this then makes even stronger the case that this should become its own committee, because you can't, I mean, these are 2 very important, very different issues. So they should not one thwart the other. I wouldn't want NYCHA not to be able to meet because we are meeting, you know, and
Right.
so it's very important. So I definitely do not wish for that to be what we end up, you know, pursuing.
I think Alicia's point was that until there's a resolution on the structure, it will remain as a subcommittee and
Yeah,
have to
that's all.
abide by whatever rules.
I think I think Alicia was just providing timeline for the next step in general,
Yeah.
what that looks like for us. Cool. yeah.
Okay.
I think we're good on the conversation about these goals for 2021 and for the committee, Anisha. So I think the next thing on the agenda is vote to adjourn.
Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn, move to adjourn.
Second.
Cool. So I'll do the roll call vote. Sorry, my dog is whining. Anisha, Stephen, yes. Tati Jorio.
Yes.
Sorry, where'd my list go? Olympia,
Yes.
Wendy Lee, Tariq,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Ricky, Crystal.
Yes.
Great. Thank you all for
Thank you.
having such a productive meeting. I'm glad you all are committed to the subcommittee. Sorry, my dog has gone crazy. And I appreciated hearing all of your thoughts, and we'll be back in touch as soon as I know more. But everybody have a good night and a good rest of your week. Bye.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.